Hello, and welcome to our friends with the Aurora Library's Let's Get Gardening program. I'm Luan with Tagawa Gardens in Centennial, Colorado. If I say the words homegrown vegetables, perhaps an image like this comes to mind. A basket full of beans, peppers, and squash. Or perhaps your thoughts go to a bowl of sweet, pop-in-your-mouth little tomatoes, still warm from the sun. But wait! While it is a bit late to be planting the heat-loving crops like tomatoes, there are still certain veggies you can be putting in right now. Let's take a look at what a fall veggie garden might include. Start with leafy veggies like colorful leaf lettuces, bok choy, Swiss chard, and kale. They do best in cooler temperatures, and since these crops produce foliage and not fruit, it isn't that long from planting to harvest. There are a couple of ways to plant a fall veggie garden. One is to use the garden beds that have already been emptied from this year's harvest. Another is to use a container or big pot that you already have. Make sure it has drainage holes and disinfect it before you use it. For the purposes of this video, we're going to use a very large container, specifically this great big galvanized tub. This is actually sold as a kit for a raised bed. We're seeing a lot of interest in raised bed gardening at Tagawa's right now. Most of the techniques we'll be talking about here would work with either approach, whether it's in-ground beds or containers, and either project is terrific to include the kids in. We're going to start by planting something that is more than just leafy. Radishes are perfect for a fall veggie garden. Just look at the package. This variety is ready to harvest in only 25 days, and it's frost tolerant. The average first frost along the Front Range is the first week of October. So these pretty little radishes will be done in plenty of time. Seed packets always have a wealth of information, so follow these directions for best results. Before we get started, a word about the soil. If you're planting in a garden bed, add a few inches of good quality compost to recharge the soil just a bit. If you're planting in a container, use the best soil available. Today I'll be planting in a wonderful soil called Roots. It's what I use in all of my containers at home. Just so you know, a little teaser, when our radishes are all grown up, this is what they're going to look like. This little guy is just 3 weeks old. The directions say this seed should be planted ½ inch deep. Any seed that's planted too deeply often fails to grow. Follow the package directions on the spacing and then cover the seeds. Press them in gently but firmly. Once we're all done with this entire bed, we'll water everything in very well. Be sure to label what you planted. It is so easy to forget. Your fall veggie garden doesn't have to start with seeds. Tagawa's has a lot of young veggie plants that are already up and growing. In this tray, we have peas, radishes, lettuce, bok choy, and mesclun. Good stuff. And here's an important tip. Anytime you're buying plants, any plants that have been growing indoors, like here at the rarefied greenhouses of Tagawa's, these plants need time to adjust to their new life in the outside world. Put them in a sheltered place for 2 or 3 days so they can acclimate to things like our dry air, temperature fluctuations, and wind before you plant them, and make sure that all of your young plants are well watered before you start planting. For variety, I'm going to include a couple of large kale plants in my raised bed. Just because it's a veggie garden doesn't mean it can't be pretty. So we make a hole, catch the plant as it drops out of its pot, loosen the roots just a bit, and set the plant in, making sure it sits at the same depth it was in its pot, and then gently, firmly backfill. We have radishes, we have kale. How about some sugar pod peas? These plants have been growing for about a month. The seed packet says these peas are frost tolerant. That's good. With their 1 month head start, they should be ready to harvest in 4 to 5 weeks. So in go the peas. There you go, sugar pod peas complete with their own little trellis. Since we have so much room left, let's just keep going, starting with one of my favorites, beautiful Swiss chard. And just for good measure, a few pansies that bring to mind the cooler weather yet to come. And just so you know, I'm going to take a little more radish seed, spread it around some of the open places, and these will be up before you know it. One other thought, even though they're not really vegetables, Late summer and early fall is a great time to plant a big pot of herbs. For example, this little collection of different kinds of basils won't tolerate any frost, but because it's portable, because it's in a container, you can move it and protect it when the nights get too cool until the cold weather finally sets in for good. Assuming you're working with good soil, whether in beds or containers, your fall veggie garden won't need a lot of fertilizer, but you can use some basic plant food according to directions if you like. With everything in place, I'm going to go grab a hose and give my fall veggie garden a good deep drink. I will be very careful with the radish seed so I don't wash it away. If you've grown a fall veggie garden before, well done. And if you haven't, what are you waiting for? Come see us at Tagawa's. We are your garden store and so much more. If you like this video, please share it with your friends and find others like it on our Tagawa Gardens YouTube channel. Also, find us on Facebook and Instagram.